We have all types of creepy videos, disturbing TikToks, scary theories, and mysterious videos that gave me goosebumps. Without further ado, let's dive in. Fighting demon monkeys from another realm. Man is possessed while fighting monkey entities. What?
Body change. His legs got longer by like several inches, and I could hear like creaking. I guess bone or something. His skeleton was changing. He got way taller, like several inches taller. His eyes changed. His whole personality changed. His arms, and he was already kind of like thin, so he got like a lot skinnier because he was like stretched out more. And I know he was taller because after he changed, he just kind of like looked at me and didn't say anything. And I was like, what is happening? And all he said in a voice that wasn't completely different, but it wasn't his normal voice, said, "Your friend is gone. He'll be back." So I just stared at him for a while, and like a while, and then it was cold. So I was like, I guess come inside or something. So I know he was taller. The stairs down to my room, there was like a ledge that like real tall people would hit their head on. And he didn't have a problem clearing it ever whenever we hung out. But he had to hunch like several inches down to avoid this thing when he came down into my room. We got down there, and then he just sat on my couch next to me, like with his hands on his knees, and just was staring at the wall in front of us. This was not my friend, but it's like sort of his body. He wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't answer anything. I was asking, like, is he going to be back soon? What are you? And he would not, he just wouldn't talk to me. And then like a half hour later, he changed again, and he was like exhausted, like barely awake. And he was like, the problem with your brother is gone. That was the end of those things. From what my buddy described later, like years, he went to an upside down version of my house when he changed, and something else went into his body. He went into this other part, and there was a lot of monkeys like around my house, like a bunch of them, a whole like, and he spent over there like hours fighting these things and them so they couldn't come back inside. And it was like a whole like assault of these things. And him doing that cut them off from my brother. I watched his.
It's hard for people to make this up, man. That's the first thing I'm thinking. And it sounds like he went into another realm and was fighting demons, these demon monkeys, so he can get back inside. Man, that is crazy.
Let me start with a question. Has a hole in the ground ever been a memorial to anyone? Does that honor anyone in any way? What would be significant? Let me start with a question. Has a hole in the ground ever been a memorial to anyone? Does that honor anyone in any way? What would be significant about a hole in the ground that would honor someone? I've got a thought. Revelation 9:11. They have his king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he is called Apollyon, Apollo, the king of the bottomless pit, the angel of the bottomless pit. So you might honor a king of a pit with a hole, right? So how do we tie in Apollo, New York? Let's look. Statue of Liberty. Why, JT, that's a lady. No, it's not a lady. That's a man. I'm going to show you that it's a man. Apollyon. Look familiar? Yeah. It's the sun god, Apollo.
That kind of does resemble the Statue of Liberty because of the nose. Doesn't it?
The illuminator. The light bearer. The light bringer. Does he got horns? Yeah, those look like horns, right? Well, that's pretty significant, since Lucifer has all those same descriptors. Yeah, I wonder if there's a coincidence. There's no coincidences. Let's take another look at Apollo, or sometimes they would call him Helios. Check my boy out over here now. Leaving no doubt now. Looks a little different with the robe open. This is Helios, the sun god in Greek, who was later replaced by, you know who, Apollo, Apollyon. Yeah, no doubt now, huh? And guess what? Apollo also had a sister. A twin sister, Artemis. So Apollo and twins. Huh. Twins. Interesting, only one of them has a spire on the top, huh? Male, female? Maybe. Now let's go back to that memorial. Oh, that's right. There's not one hole in the ground. There's two. Twin holes in the ground. So is that Artemis and Apollo? Or is that Apollyon and Abaddon? Does it matter? I don't think it does. What I think matters is Revelation 9:11 and who Apollyon becomes. He becomes the Antichrist. And with all the New World Order talk associated with this day, what I find significant is we're almost here and the pit is open.
For entertainment purposes only, do your own research on everything. Now let's dive in.
You still don't know who the Statue of Liberty actually is? You still don't know what that light she's holding represents? And you just think that pose is accidental? And that we're not living in a time past the 1,000 years when Satan is released from his prisons to go out to deceive the nations? Well, you might not know the time period we're in or who that statue represents, but I know someone that does. And they're trying to send us a sign. A sign that maybe this time of evil we've been living in for a long, long time is coming to an end. A sign to get our discernment ready, because towards the end is when they're going to try their hardest to deceive all the nations and all the people. So it's time you make a decision and decide what side you want to be on. But just be careful, because it's a decision that might last you an eternity.
Always looked at the Statue of Liberty and thought, man, that's fascinating. I want to go see it one day. But what really is it? If you look at it carefully, it looks like the same material that's on top of these old structures. So, who created it? What is it doing? What does it represent? All these questions must get answered. We're going to find out on Dark Waters 9. Let's go.
Have you ever seen pictures of the Statue of Liberty when it was first being built? As a matter of fact, did you know it was originally built in France? The Statue of Liberty is actually a gift from France as a sign of friendship to the United States. For that very reason, you can find several miniature versions of the Statue of Liberty all throughout France. But have you ever seen pictures of the Statue of Liberty when it was first being built? As a matter of fact, did you know it was
Tartarian star forts.
So, I'm beginning to think that these star forts are giant batteries. Case in point, this is Battery Park, New York City. Did they call it Battery Park because this was a giant battery, maybe? Now, New York City used to be called New Amsterdam, and here we are looking at Wall Street, where coincidentally a giant wall ran around the Tartarian-style fortification. It was literally a walled city. It even appears that the Statue of Liberty was built on a pre-existing star fort that was already freaking there. These star fortifications are found all over the world, from North America, South America, Europe, and even Australia. They claim to have been built between 1500 and 1700, but Australia wasn't even founded until 1788. How are these star forts built in Australia then between the 15 and 1700s? The answer is because they're lying. I also believe that these star forts were constructed on areas where ley lines intersect, which would be a massive power source that these quote-unquote batteries could draw power from.
So it's possible that the Statue of Liberty is laying on a ley line on top of a star fort. Okay.
So you want to know about star forts? That's good. That's real good. Alright, listen to this. So star forts have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Nobody knows who built them. Some say the Tartarians, some say the Moors, but nobody knows for sure. There are many different types. You can get star fort castles, star fort towns, and even star fort cities. And many people don't know this, but the Statue of Liberty is actually built on top of a star fort. Even the Pentagon is shaped like a star fort. So these star forts was built to be a vibrational frequency ecosystem. It gathered and stored natural energy from the ether and the water, a bit like a power station. The technology that they had in the past was so advanced, it's amazing. Imagine if they never had no technology, no satellites. How would you remove the land and replace it with water for it never to grow back again? Just look at the shape and the detail. We sure don't make it like that anymore. So you want to know about star forts? That's good.
Just look at the precision of these lines and how they were able to put the water in there. This looks exactly like what was beneath the Statue of Liberty. They lying to us, man, about everything.
Are you guys familiar with the star forts in America? These lands belong to the ancient people, and they were great builders. We had advanced technology and electricity back then. But these structures don't just look like stars. Positioned right above these fortresses are stars in the sky. So what I'm saying is, these star forts is lined up directly with the stars. The melanated beings have the wisdom of sacred geometry and mathematics. We are the original bricklayers, and these forts will have rivers and canal systems built with over 5 million bricks. Sometimes we would even dig out a mountain and make that our castle, but we position our castles on big hills. This was important for warfare. You guys have to remember, we had invaders trying to attack us. In the Battle of Jericho, they marched around the walls blowing their trumpets until the wall fell down. This is all in the Bible. These people did this by using the power of sound waves. But our ancient forts was built with the same frequencies of the earth. So instead of destroying these sites, they just moved in them. You guys have to remember, we call them star forts. Are you guys familiar with the star forts in America?
Let's talk about star forts. So what is a star fort? What is the purpose of star forts? Thus, star forts or bastion forts were built as they maximized defensiveness against cannonball impacts and offered better protection and better views of the battlefield for those inside the fort. Well, that's the official narrative. So star forts are these star-shaped, almost like snowflake-shaped type forts or cities. And what's really fascinating, you can find star forts all across our realm, not just in America. I'll show you some example. Here's a star fort in Italy. And according to the narrative, Venetian architect Vincenzo Scamozzi built this 9-pointed star fort in 1593 under the ideals of utopia inspired by Sir Thomas More's Utopia. They even got star forts in Canada. Apparently the Canadian star fort was built in 1749. And the current shape was built in 1846. And today it operates as a historic site. You can also find them in Goryakaku, Japan, and it was built in 1855. Here's an aerial view of that same star fort. Very beautiful and very interesting. Here's a star fort in France, apparently built during the 17th century. Here's a star fort in Copenhagen, built in 1664. Again with that same design and similar shape. Here's a star fort in the Netherlands, one of the most well-preserved examples of a star fort. It apparently was built in 1593. It was converted from a fort to a village in 1851. Another very interesting fact is that the Statue of Liberty is actually on a star fort. Here's the bird's eye view of the Statue of Liberty. Yup, it's on a star fort. So all across our realm, you see these star forts, star-shaped cities. And we're told that their only purpose and design was just as a defense mechanism against enemies. It's almost as if these star forts found all across our realm belonged to a single empire. Maybe one that existed long ago and the current nations living there took over, rewrote history and said, we built these. This is a star fort in Maryland, apparently built in 1798, and it's most well known for the inspiration for the national anthem. So who built these beautiful, intricate, advanced-looking structures in the 1800s and before? Well, let's take a look who they're telling us built these. This is Goryakaku, Japan. Star forts were not limited to the Western world. This example in Japan was built in 1855. Here's the aerial view one more time. And these are the type of people that lived during this time. And according to the narrative, they built it. Same goes for the star fort in Maryland. This is the star fort, and these are apparently the type of people that built that star fort. Horse and buggy people. So I wonder, what was the true purpose of these star cities, these star forts? Here's that really well-preserved star fort in the Netherlands. And these are the types of people that lived during that time. Even architects say that to build that kind of stuff, you need CAD technology, which is apparently something the old world didn't have. Like if we wanted to build star forts today, we would need CAD technology. So how did these horse and buggy people do it? Or did these people just inherit this world, rewrote the history, rewrote who built some of these buildings, and just took over? I don't know. There's a lot of strange, mysterious stuff happening during the 1800s and before. Like the architecture during this time just doesn't really match the horse and buggy type people. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think. I do have a YouTube where I talk about this kind of stuff. And we are out. Let's talk about star forts. So what is it?
How they built it, I have no idea, but they definitely found it and moved in and they made it their home. You guys have any idea how they built it? Who? Let me know in the comments below.
A lot of people don't know the original design for the Statue of Liberty was a black female. As a matter of fact, in a museum in New York, you can see the original design of the Statue of Liberty, which is a black woman. When the French artist created the Statue of Liberty, it was supposed to represent the end of slavery. On the original model, there were chains on the hands and feet, as we know. When the statue got to America, they wanted to erase any references to slavery from the statue, but the artist really fought to keep the chains on there because this is your art. You don't want people tampering with your art. And if you look, the chain is still on the foot of the Statue of Liberty to this day.
Well, the story was that it was a gift of the French to the slaves, and that the original statue had the picture of a black woman. The original model for it, and it had a distinctly African face. But it was Europeanized because the people in the United States did not want to have a black face sitting up there in their harbor, so they carved it out. In France, they had to go back to the drawing board and remodel the face after patron saint of Manifest Destiny. So the patron saint of Manifest Destiny, that's her face on the Statue of Liberty, which was transposed from the African face. In fact, you see the patron saint of Manifest Destiny in the symbol for Columbia Pictures at the beginning of the movies. That's the patron saint of Manifest Destiny.
A lot of
The patron saint of Manifest Destiny? Did I hear that right?
On this day in 1845, John L. O'Sullivan proclaimed in his newspaper that the United States had the divine right to overtake the West, specifically Oregon country. Back in July, he referred to this right as Manifest Destiny, and throughout his early career advocated American hegemony across the continent, including both the Oregon country, jointly controlled with Britain, and Mexico, especially the gold fields in California. This concept was a 19th century version of American exceptionalism, encompassing the theory of divine providence that had destined the American nation to remake the West in its image. Quote, and that claim is by the right of our manifest destiny to overspread and possess the whole of the continent, which Providence has given us for the development of the great experiment of liberty and federated self-government entrusted to us. This premise became true over the next several years. Texas will become the 28th state in 1845. Much of the Oregon country, the part south of the 49th parallel, would be U.S. territory in 1846. And finally, northwestern Mexico would be one of the spoils of the Mexican-American War in 1848, rendering America's continental ambitions complete for that time.
A belief in America's divine right to expand its territory from sea to shining sea drove thousands to embark on a perilous journey. But hidden beneath the optimism lay a deadly secret. The westward manifest destiny, a belief in America's divine right to expand its territory from sea to shining sea, drove thousands to embark on a perilous journey. But hidden beneath the optimism lay a deadly secret. The westward expansion came at a devastating cost to the indigenous peoples who had called those lands home for centuries. The deadly secret of manifest destiny was the forced removal, displacement, and extermination of Native American communities. Tragedies like the Trail of Tears saw the forced relocation of thousands, leading to immeasurable suffering and loss of life. The pursuit of manifest destiny became a relentless march of dispossession and violence. As settlers pushed west, conflicts erupted, and the deadly secret of manifest destiny played out on the blood-soaked plains. The impact on Native American cultures was catastrophic, with repercussions felt for generations. As we reflect on the deadly secret of manifest destiny, let us acknowledge the pain and loss suffered by Native American communities.
Man, that is crazy. I see what's going on here. I see. Okay.
This is a parade in Italy. This is a parade in Italy depicting a black woman as the Statue of Liberty, as the matriarch of the land. Everybody knows around the world who are the indigenous people of America. We know the truth now. You know the truth now. This is a parade.
How come nobody's heard about this parade in Italy? This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
You think you from Africa, huh? We got melanated Indians on the wall in the museum in Macon, Georgia, with temples on top of mound pyramids, and you think you from Africa, huh? Let's keep going. We got step mound pyramids tore down in Georgia, and you think you from Africa, huh? Let's keep going. We got whole cities with temples on top of pyramid mounds in Georgia, Macon, Georgia, and you think you from Africa. We got Haru, Horus, the Birdman ideology with a fire pit, just like Egyptians, in Georgia, and you think you from Africa, huh? We got pyramid-type structures aligned with Orion's belt in Macon, Georgia, and you think you from Africa. Let's keep going. We got ancient ancestors' bones taken by the government and never shown again, but you think you from Africa, huh? We got ancient irrigation systems, just like the Nile River had, but you still think you from Africa. We know the truth now. We know the truth now. We know the truth now here. We know the truth now here. I want to show you that in ancient America, they were doing the same things they were doing in ancient Egypt and ancient Nubia. The altar of fire. He who deserves heaven is to construct a fire altar in the form of a falcon. Now let me show you a fire altar in the form of a falcon inside a mound in America. Let's keep going.
We are inside our Earth Lodge, and we're looking at is the original 1,000-year-old Earth Lodge floor. This is a very interesting structure. There are 50 seats in this room. From the entrance to the door, it comes around in a circle. Each seat is slightly higher and wider than the preceding seat, and 47 seats come up, and then on this bird-shaped effigy are the three main seats. The measurements they use to build this are extremely accurate. It is within a few inches of being a perfect circle. It's the four pillars that held up the ceiling are also within a few inches of being a perfect square. The fire pit is directly in the exact center of the structure. So they indeed did have ways of making some very, very accurate measurements and building these structures.
We know the truth now. We know the truth now here. There were mummies found in Mesa Verde, Colorado. Here's the newspaper clipping. Let's keep going. Corn cobs dried and shrunken almost into nothing. The fact that the corn cobs are prehistoric is proved from the fact that buried with the mummies of the mound builders in the valleys below. Let's keep going. Here's another photo of mummies from Mesa Verde, Colorado. Let's keep going. As you can see, the pottery has the celestial cross, the solar crux, star constellations on the pottery. Let's keep going. There are sun temples there, aligned with Orion's belt. Let's keep going. Structures built aligned with eclipses every 17 or 18 years. This is intellectual knowledge right here in America, people. We know who built it now. Roll the corn. We know the truth now. We know the truth now here.
This is Machu Picchu, aka Jerusalem, found in Peru. This city is shaped like the symbol of Heru. There is a stone altar there that predicts the equinoxes. The stone crest has four sides that point in four cardinal directions. It predicts the equinox on March 21st and September 21st. What people don't understand is when you find the falcon, you find the altar. Let's keep going.
Machu Picchu, Peru. There is a giant stone at the top of this sacred mountain called Intihuatana, which means the place when the sun gets tied. Amazingly, the stone is perfectly positioned so each corner sits at the four cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. Therefore, the stone is a precise indicator of the date of the two equinoxes. It's a solar click. So that stone, where they have that, that upright stone right there, is where they have the sun. It'll align just at the right moments for certain times of year, and they can track the sun that way.
We know the truth now.
I just feel like I just got my matrix cord just snatched out of me. And it's just like, so you think you from Africa, huh? Hey. This was the most disturbing videos on the internet today. Let's dive in.
Under the waves is where we belong.
You can see that what you do is you pretend to be people's friends. You find out what they want, what their weakness is, and you give it to them. If they want money, you give them money. If they want, you arrange for that. If they want, you arrange for that. Whatever it is they want, their weakness is, you feed them. And then you tell them, okay, I'm doing all this for you and I just need these little favors. And you corrupt them. And you corrupt them until you can control them.
And of course, you know what they're doing, so you can always blackmail them if they try to get out of line. But basically what controls them is the knowledge that if they don't go along with you, then they lose out on all these things they like. You know, if they play ball with you, then they become rich, they become famous, they have all of their desires sated, they get everything that they want, but in a mental state which is increasingly depraved and subject to manipulation. And that's also the Venetian method, that you win by corruption. And that the thing that the empire fears most of all is an honest man who isn't corruptible because he doesn't want those things.
The Venetian method, you gotta be careful. Keep your head out there on a swivel. Always do the right thing.
How some of the crystals are formed and studied, they're frozen in a freezer, and then once they're frozen, they're viewed under a microscope with a camera attached to the microscope, and that's how these crystals are studied.
You know what's interesting too, I'm glad you brought that up, is inside, if you ever go to Japan, see these crystals under the microscope, it's almost like a window that opens, because when the light from the microscope hits the crystal, it's like a flower that opens up, and then you actually can see the crystal form, and then it disappears. So it's like a window that opens, and you see the crystal, and then it closes. So you only have a second or two to see this, and then it's gone. So it's like, what a wonderful discovery to be able to see water the way we did. Yes?
When the crystal is formed in the ice, does it rise before it's frozen or while it's being melted?
How'd you know that? That's true. It rises as it's being frozen.
As being frozen.
Yeah. That's an interesting question.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but there's a lot more to be discovered. I hope the next time I talk, I'll be able to show you some of the other inventions, the water inventions. But I kind of told you some really incredible truths. The information is introduced at the apex. That's a huge discovery. I manufacture some home water products called AquaJewel products, and that's aquajewelproducts.com. I'm a really good water energizer. There's a few good water energizers out there, but you always have to work with two principles. You want to, whatever you do, you want to get rid of the old memory. You don't want that old memory in your water. And secondly, you want new memory in your water. So whatever systems that you buy, make sure they work off of both those areas. They re-energize and destroy the old memory, and they also put in a new memory. And you have the ability as electromagnetic beings to program your own water, by the way. You have that resource right there in your own hands. That's why they call this holy water, or that's why we pray over our food. I mean, these were old habits or old things that we carried up from generations to generations, but they had a reason for doing that way back when. I mean, they're communicating to the moisture or the liquid in our food. I mean, we're talking to the very thing that's going into our bodies to nourish our bodies. There's science behind prayer, the more we've learned as we get older, or as I've gotten older. I thought it was just a waste of time right before we ate, but it turns out it has significant meaning to me now. And talking to your water, and being with your water more, taking your water with you and talking with it like a friend. As long as nobody's around, you're going to get some benefit. I promise you'll get some benefit. And
wow, what powerful stuff. Who knew talking to your water, energizing it? It makes sense. We're electric beings. I'm going to start praying over my water now. Call me crazy. I need it energized.
Archaeologists in Iraq have discovered something huge. The 4,500-year-old palace of a semi-mythical king has been discovered. It's just all too exciting. The city is called Girsu, and it's one of the oldest cities of human civilization. Archaeologists in Iraq have discovered something huge. The 4,500-year-old palace of a semi-mythical king has been discovered. It's just all too exciting. The city is called Girsu, and it's one of the oldest cities of human civilization ever to be discovered. Home to 15,000 Sumerians, this city could date to the transition from villages to urban settlements. In other words, Girsu is the cradle of civilization and the birthplace of urban society that we know of. The Sumerian civilization, which ranged from 4,500 to 1900 BC, were the first to incorporate writing into their civilization, and this was called cuneiform, which you can see here. They were also the first to encompass cities in their culture, as well as numbering systems. Archaeologists with the British Museum have also discovered the Holy of Holies, which they have been looking for 150 years. Like the Kaaba in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, the Holy of Holies was a religious area which would have drawn pilgrims on journeys to the site every year. And archaeologists like me are super excited because it may hold many texts which could tell us more about the start of human civilization as we know it. Some of the lost tablets that we hope to find there may also contain the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Which is basically, the Epic of Gilgamesh is basically the story of Noah. It's a story that has been copied and recopied and like retold for different cultures again and again and again, but essentially it tells the story of a huge like global catastrophe flood that wiped almost nearly everybody out, and human civilization having to like reset. That's the essential story that goes way, it's one of the first stories ever to be recorded in human writing. It is that old. It is stuck in the memory of us. And yeah, the question is, are all these texts talking about separate floods, or are they all referring to one sort of recent catastrophic event that did nearly wipe out all of humanity? You got to work that out for yourself, but have a little Google of the Younger Dryas comet theory, which is the theory that a comet or a series of comets or shrapnel of comets pelted the Earth around 12,000 years ago, causing huge tsunamis, deluges, the sea levels to rise, everything to drown. Could that event be the event that ancient humans are writing about, talking about, and desperately preserving for future generations? Like, yo, the sky fell down. It was crap.
I'm not too sure about that one, about comets hitting, but I do think an angelic war might have popped off before Adam. I know, this isn't, you ain't gonna find too much scripture on this. Well, you could. I don't know too much about that, but I do think that some type of angelic war was going on, like before Adam, like before the whole Adam thing, before it said the earth was form and voidless. What if a reset just happened right after like the angelic war took off, and before that, and right after that, it said the earth was without form and voidless. So I'm thinking maybe a giant reset happened, and then Noah's was kind of like a soft reset, like with just a flood. Like a major reset was when the earth was form and voidless. Like, I know this is a little out there, but it has me thinking. Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
I will talk about in a later video. But if you don't know, it's a 4,000-year-old poem whose myths were used in the Bible. One of the archaeologists, Dr. Ray, working on this site, believes that there is a shrine to the epic warrior Gilgamesh at Girsu. With the help of texts, we may gain more insight into this myth and see if there's any truth to it.
I think there could be.
It's incredible how much we can learn just by looking at footprints. These footprints were found in White Sands National Park, New Mexico, and date back around 13,000 years. This individual walked close to a mile in one direction, but every so often, these smaller footprints would appear, implying that this individual was walking across the mud holding a child. And judging by the distance of the footprints, this individual was walking pretty fast. A potential reason is that she was being followed by a now extinct giant ground sloth.
Wow.
There's also evidence of a mammoth being quite close to them as well.
That was
there
a
are
big
two sets of footprints
animal
from the
bear
same individual
thing that I
heading
didn't
in different
recognize.
directions. The first set has a child's footprints and the second set doesn't, meaning this individual reached their destination, dropped the child off, and then headed back. From mere footprints, we get a glimpse of humanity's past.
I have a feeling that could be the beginning of the most amazing movie about some ancient woman who's having to get a child back to safety or something. I don't know, it just sparked an idea. I thought, ooh, that's a movie.
Definitely a good movie. Getting chased by a giant mammoth bear, that's scary.
Have you ever seen the Rishat structure in Northwest Africa? Well, supposedly scientists don't know what created it. But in my opinion, they know. They just don't want you to know. You see, they have gone through great lengths to keep the true nature of this creation a secret. They do what they always do. They create false narratives to steer your mind away from anything but the truth. But I have the truth. But before I give you the evidence-backed truth about it, let's look and see what they say about it.
Attention, because it shows a structure that looks like a massive eye sitting in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
The astronauts spotted something that looked like an enormous 30-mile wide circular shape, which had a center surrounded by concentric rings of stone and sand. And it looked just like a giant eye from all the way up in space. Hence, it came to be known as the Eye of the Sahara.
More than 50 years after the Eye of the Sahara was revealed to the world, it remains a fascinating enigma and a striking sight to behold. Locals call it the Kalb al-Rishat, or the Rish, while the Eye of the Sahara continues to puzzle experts. In recent years, a remarkable new theory about this mysterious structure has been presented. It's believed that this location could have once been the site of a fabled island kingdom that has never been found. The legendary lost city of Atlantis.
Will you pull up the photos of these concentric circles? Tell him.
Yeah, the Rishat, R-I-C-H-A-T. It's worth mentioning that.
Got it already here.
Yeah, in the first couple, I just want to say it's Rishat. I used to call it Rikhot. I was mispronouncing it. But let me ask you this, Joe, real quick. When you saw my video, was that the very first time you had ever seen this thing before?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So many. When I first saw this, I was like, what the f? By the way, you see that white? All those white blemishes?
Uh-huh.
That's salt. This was under the ocean. And people, let me just say, you mentioned Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock. I love them. And I know for sure that they don't particularly think this is the site for a few different reasons. So let me say there's absolute doubt. Even I am not 100% certain. I'm not even 100% certain that Atlantis existed. What I am certain is that humans were doing spectacular things and a cataclysmic event happened called the Younger Dryas and reset something for somebody.
Is there a natural explanation for this formation?
Yes. So let me say that it is considered to be mysterious. They're not 100% certain of it. However, the consensus is that it was a volcanic dome that had risen and collapsed multiple times, like 100 million years ago, allegedly. I say allegedly, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. I'm just saying I would like to know where sometimes they get these figures from. Like, explain to me why it was 100 million years ago and not 99 or 98. Map it, just type in, even if you went to Mauritania, so you can see this from space. Astronauts use it as a locator, and they weren't really familiar or aware of it until the Gemini missions in the early 1960s. So if you if you just go to Google Earth, you'll be able to find this quite quickly. It stands out, and it's why they call it the Eye of Africa or the Eye of the Sahara.
Now, if you're familiar with my channel at all, you know how I like to tell you that they tell us the truth right in plain sight, and they keep calling this the Eye of the Sahara. I wonder why that would be. Well, I'm going to do a little zoom out for you here of this structure, and then I'm going to show you a few things. Keep that part right in mind. It kind of looks like something here to me. I can't quite place it, but when you compare it to the eye of an alligator, it looks quite similar. And again, when you compare the inner part in the concentric circles, it looks awfully similar to a bird's eye. But I don't think this is a giant petrified bird. Oh no, I think it's a giant petrified dragon. And I'm going to show you evidence of that. First, I want to just point out, this is from the actual map. So we have its eye here, full eye, and if you follow along here, you can see the curvature of a giant, half-covered, petrified dragon. It looks an awful lot like this, to be honest, even with the curved mouth part here. And I'm going to show you a scene from The Hobbit that I think is literally taken right from this dragon. To me, there is an uncanny resemblance to how they bury this dragon in gold and what that dragon looks like in Africa. Here's the dragon in Africa with its eye, and it looks like obviously there's been erosion and it's been buried from a flood and mud, and here's the Hobbit video. Looks pretty similar because they literally like to tell us things right in the movies. And to me, that's no coincidence. Like I said, they will go to every extent to keep you from knowing the true nature of the place you live. They want you in your little knowledge bubble and not breaking free. And if you're having a hard time thinking that this is an eye, especially of a dragon, well then you just haven't watched enough of my videos. So I'm going to add a little finisher. Because if you don't know that dragons existed and giants existed and dinosaurs are really just a story to keep you in that knowledge bubble, well then you're still in that knowledge bubble. And here's a clip of one of my old videos to help you break out. Let's first take a look at what the 1946 dictionaries used to say. Dragons, now rare. Let's see what Alexa has to say about this. Alexa, how many dragon fossils have been found in the United States?
I'm not mad at him, guys. He's questioning everything. I'm not mad at him. You know, it makes you think, is it a dragon or is this Atlantis? Because it could be a dragon, guys. It could be. Or this could be a ancient civilization Atlantis, but man, how the little circles mashed up to the eye, I'm not mad at him. Kind of reminds me of my boy at Roger at Mud Fossils, you know? We gotta take a look at these land masses and really question, could this be a massive dragon? Do you know how big that thing could be? If it was a dragon, that thing is massive. If that's just his eye, whew, this is a massive titanic dragon.
The number of dragon fossils found in the United States is limited. Only 5 fossils have been discovered so far, limiting the knowledge about these creatures. These fossils are studied by researchers to learn more about dragon species and their evolution. While the findings are preliminary, they provide insights into the life and times of these majestic creatures.
So the dictionary says they're real. Alexa says they're real. Several weeks ago in the UK, they found a fossil that looked like this, even though they called a plesiosaur. That sure looks like a dragon to me. And just a few weeks after that was found, CNN reveals that their scientist actually unveiled dragon remains. Not to mention how they're part of the Chinese zodiac with all real animals, and how there are over 30 verses in the Bible that reference dragons, and how my friend Lori sent me this amazing 1922 dictionary that just happens to have the word dragon in it. And let's see what it says. Is it going to say fictional character, mythical beast? Or is it going to say something else? Winged serpent. And if that still wasn't enough evidence for you, just go to the Google Maps and type that in and see this perfect outline of a dragon. And if you've seen my volcanoes are called...
Yeah, look, you can see the little ears right there. There's the eye. This is a smaller dragon. If these are just the trees, this is just a baby one compared to that other one. But I would be interested in, you know, how did these things just, you know, materialize into the land? The decompose is one of the word I'm looking for. Like, their biological structure had to be different than ours. Like, if we think about the time with the trees, oxygen's enriched, you know, there's no telling what type of minerals are inside their body that would make them decompose like how they decompose, you know? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
Us from the insides of dragons, we'll look at this smoke just billowing out of where that dragon is. Tell me you don't see this. But you can go...
Yeah, why is the smoke coming out of there? That's crazy.
Go on believing what the scientists say, or you can start listening to the people like me who are actually trying to bring you truth. And as always, this was all for entertainment purposes. I know this is just a naturally occurring formation that just happens to look exactly like an eyeball. Yeah, God does these things. He creates these strange looking anomalies. All for entertainment purposes only. Have you ever...
They're definitely not telling the truth about this. What do you think it is? I'm interested to hear it. Drop in the comments below.
Regard black magic as being purely fictitious, or is there some truth in it?
Some truth. 100% truth. There is nothing fictitious about black magic.
in any way whatever. It is a fact. It is a fact which has existed for several thousand years. I mean, when we talk about black magic, we are talking about Satanism, necromancy, alchemy, witchcraft, the worship of Satan, the worship of dark forces, whether it's voodoo, juju, whether it's something practiced in the Western world or the Eastern world, whether it's easily defined or not easily defined, the order of the left-hand path, the following of this, the following of that. It is basically the worship of the force of evil as embodied by Satan, Lucifer, the princes of darkness and their legions and so on. In a very simple sense, of course, it goes much more deeply than that. It is a fact. It is a desperately dangerous fact. It does exist. It exists around us today. Satanic ceremonies will be happening in Britain tonight. Very definitely. Ask any priest, ask any member of the forces of law and order, and they will tell you that Satanism as such, it's there, and it has been for thousands of years. Man has worshipped the devil longer than he has worshipped, perhaps, an established religious figure. Do you regard black magic as being purely fictitious, or is there some...
This man was Sauron before he even went on that adventure on Lord of the Rings. This spiritual warfare for real.
They've been lying to you. These celebrities were old historical figures, and for centuries they've been hiding it from you. Back in the 90s, a man named Donald Marshall started getting attention online after claiming he'd witnessed real human cloning programs connected to elite circles. He described what he called replication centers, secret facilities where clones were created from scratch. These centers, he claimed, operated like advanced farms, growing clones in specialized environments.
That kind of reminds me of the Cabbage Patch, doesn't it?
Almost like organic plants, before they were activated and brought to life for use by those in power. But he wasn't the only one making these claims. Phil Schneider, a government contractor who mysteriously died in the mid-90s, claimed the military was using advanced biotechnology to create humanoid replicas. His story was dismissed as just another wild theory, and then he ended up dead, just like his claims. These clones aren't born, they're grown. They may look human, but they're said to lack something essential. A soul, a spirit, and independent thought, controlled by some powerful people. Why is it always celebrities? Why not random people on the street? Comment clone and I'll send you a list of celebrities people say might be clones. They've been lying to you.
Damn, tell me that's not got Cabbage Patch vibes all over it. This game that was invented by Russian students reveal how the elite manipulate the masses.
Have you ever heard of a game called Werewolf?
No.
Everyone gets a piece of paper. It's either got villager written on it, but two have the word werewolf. Someone runs the game to make sure no one's cheating, and they go, okay, it's nighttime, everyone close your eyes. Werewolves choose someone to kill, and the werewolves go. They say, okay, everyone close your eyes, it's morning time, open them again. During the night, Francis was... There's then a conversation, and this is where it gets interesting, between all the villagers and the two werewolves over who the werewolves are. Then at the end of the day, the villagers have to decide who they're going to kill, and they say, well, we're going to kill Constantine. It's revealed by the person running the game, I'm afraid Constantine was a villager. And the game continues. The villagers win the game if they kill both werewolves. The werewolves win the game if they kill all but two villagers. And the werewolves usually win. The game was invented by a student of sociology in Russia who wanted to prove his thesis that an uninformed majority will always lose a battle of information against an informed minority. So that just shows when you have hidden information, you can completely manipulate a large group of people. Have you ever heard of a game called Werewolf?
That's why it's important to have all the facts in a row. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button because we do these videos every single day. And I'd love to see you around here, so let's get straight back into the action. Damn, he really did work with Tesla. I believe him, y'all.
Quite aside from my legal name, which is on my birth certificate of Bielik, I was born in 1916. The best that I've been able to determine from my own memories and what comes up 4 August 1916. Was born Edward A. Cameron, and in 1917, I believe 15 May, this guy was born in his original body, Duncan Cameron, or whatever they called him at the time. And we were born into a family with considerable amounts of money, not really wealthy, but they were well off. And we didn't hurt for money, we didn't hurt for the means for an education. Came time we went to school, he wound up in the University of Edinburgh, Scotland, according to his readings. Took a PhD in physics in 1939. I, in the meantime, went to University of Princeton, bachelor's and master's degree, and so far as I can determine, again, from memories, Took a PhD in physics from Harvard in 1939, both of us in the summer. It was arranged by our inimitable father, who had a great deal of influence with the Navy and apparently political clout in various sections and parts of the government. We do not understand how he got these connections. We don't know anything about them. There are no documents to show this. He himself served in the Navy in World War I, apparently as an ordinary recruit, did a 20-year stint, retired. At what status, we don't know. Again, the retirement papers are missing, the separation papers. We do not know whether he got involved in intelligence or not, but it would appear that he did because of its subsequent events. He didn't work, from everything we know, from that point on. He had money from the family, and he became an ardent admirer of sailboats and decided to build his own. He built one, raced it, took some trophies, would sell it and build another. In between, he was traveling back and forth to Europe, and as had been previously mentioned, he became involved in the smuggling of German scientists to the U.S. This ceased in 1939 when the Cold War turned to a hot war. But he had connections. We don't know how they were obtained, where they went, but it was determined that the two of us would become part of this project. When we finished our education, we were invited to join and to enlist in the Navy. We were both given commissions, September 1939. And we then did about 3 months at Provincetown, Rhode Island Academy, the naval officers. In those days, they did the so-called 90-day wonder business. But we were already fairly well prepared. We didn't go through Annapolis or anything like this. And then we were sent to the project. But we did a lot of shuttling back and forth as part of our job. And one of the reasons why we were chosen was that the Navy wanted two people to represent their interests and keep full tabs on what was going on in the tests and the development of the program, who were technically competent to report in detail what was going on. And there was also another aspect of this involved, that aside from Tesla, who did not have a good formal education, he started out in 1979. His father died, and his first year in the university was terminated, and he had to go to work. Came to the U.S. in '84. He had enormous insight and an incredible intuitive insight, and solved his problems in that manner very competently. He developed what was even more important, the so-called Levinson time equations. With that as a background, they were able then to go on and develop the whole system of the visibility project as applied to a large part object. Vice Admiral Hal Bowen Sr., who was the then director of the Office of Naval Engineering, which was abolished in '46, but he was in charge of all of the research work for the Navy. And he told us, gentlemen, you may as well know, we will be at war with Japan within 48 to 72 hours. We expect to lift Pearl Harbor. You're not going back there. You're too valuable. So we're going to leave you in San Francisco until your tour is over, which is the home base for the Pennsylvania. You do office work. You can enjoy some lead times. You might as well enjoy it, because when you go back to the Institute, there'll be no leads and there'll be nothing but hard work. So we did. Tesla was given a ship for his full-size tests with crew. And that happened to be a battleship, unknown. But in wartime, apparently, politics has a bit of pull, and the politics coming from the President of the United States, he could probably order the Secretary of the Navy to supply any kind of ship that Tesla wanted. So he got a battleship. The equipment was designed, of course, by Tesla with a lot of work and cooperation, and you might say also a lot of fighting between Tesla and Van Neumann. Tesla was director, Van Neumann was, I guess, assistant. They didn't agree on everything. Van Neumann had a great deal of respect for Tesla's ability, but they didn't agree about everything. Tesla was insisting, as the date approached for the tests on the battleship with personnel, that they were going to have a very severe problem with personnel. He said flatly, he says, you cannot employ the large amounts of power required to make a ship of this size invisible without having a very disastrous effect on the heads of the people, and the minds or the bodies of the personnel involved, because we're talking megawatts of RF power, enormous amounts of power in the coils, which in the early phases were like degaussing coils.
He's trying to turn a battleship invisible. Tell me why I believe him, man. He's not lying. He really did work with Tesla.
Wrapped around the hull of the ship, but the later design was a set of 4 coils mounted on the deck of the ship, specially designed Tesla conical-shaped designs. And just interestingly enough, every transformer design ever built by Nikola Tesla was conical, was not round core, it was conically shaped, tapering towards a point. Top. Quite aside from my legal name, which is on my birth certificate of Bielik, I was born in 1916. The best that I've been.
Damn, he really did work with Tesla. I believe him, y'all. He was trying to turn the ship invisible. How crazy was that? But he was worried about the effects on the people because of how much power it was going to generate. Dang, what a crazy story. Actually working with Tesla, invisible battleship he can order wherever he wants. Man, that was excellent.
What are the face peelers? Back in 2023, there was a series of videos that went viral, and these videos were captured in the Peruvian Amazon. Chaotic scene in which the villagers were running around screaming, saying, we're being assaulted by aliens, and they were using the term pela cara, which is face peeler. I had to go down there to investigate a particular incident, which was the attempted abduction of a 15-year-old girl. And she told me one evening she was in her backyard, and she bent over to pick up the fruit. She felt a wind at her back, and she looked up to see what was generating this wind, and she saw this person dressed in black body armor flying on a disc, and then he landed next to her and he grabbed her from behind. He put his hand over her mouth. Another one lands in front of her and he grabs her legs. They took out a long tube, and this had a cream in it, and the guy that was holding her mouth from behind, he started to smear this cream all over her face. And as he was doing it, the guy in front said, be careful, don't put too much on because you're going to ruin the flesh. After they apply this stuff to her face, they take out a laser scalpel and they begin to make an incision under her jawline, and she starts to struggle. And as they're beginning to cut, she starts to freak out, and she gets her hand underneath the helmet of the guy behind her, and she starts to lift up on the helmet. He gets agitated, he freaks out a little bit, and they drop her. She lets out a blood-curdling scream. Her brother and a group of other villagers come running instantly. And Talia, before she passed out, she said that the assailants said, let's go, we gotta get out of here. And then one of them said, no, we can't just leave her here. What are the face peelers? Back in 2023, there was a series of videos.
That's absolutely terrifying. Who knew you had to practice alien self-defense?
To worry about the horsepower tax anymore. We've discovered the answer to every motorist problem. Introducing Charlie Steinlau and his family. Charlie Jr., Charlie Sr., little Maria, who adds youth and beauty, and as fast as Mr. Steinlau wears out the seat of his pants, Mrs. Steinlau puts in a new seat. There's no wear on hers. Yes, Mr. Steinlau has certainly started something. Say, Bill, do you really need that front wheel? Oh, you don't, eh? Well, keep it on the ground just the same. It looks better that way. So, you don't have to worry about the horsepower tax anymore.
It's absolutely insane. Take a look at all the old structures in the back, too. That's excellent footage.
Got to the Hoover Dam specifically. Like, come on. Of all places they could have been hiding the Allspark and Megatron. It's at the Hoover
why
Dam.
not like Area 51 or something like that?
Exactly.
Why would it be
Or some-
under a hydroelectric dam?
Exactly. And then in Witwicky is the kid's name, Shia
Okay.
LaBeouf, and his great grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
Get this, while exploring the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, of course. The place where there's a treaty and everyone's not allowed to go.
Right, exactly. When he supposedly was exploring the Arctic Circle, he discovered Megatron. And so it kind of starts with like a lot of the stuff that we would call conspiracy, and he was frozen. They ended up finding him and taking him to the Hoover Dam and keeping him at the Hoover Dam and the Allspark at the Hoover Dam, and they explain it. They say, they give the timeline, they show that the way that it's in there, and I just got this weird feeling as I was watching it that like, I think that there's so much truth to that whole story, because as they're walking him in to show him where the Allspark is, they show the giant black cube. It's got the hieroglyphics all over it. It's giant. And they ultimately say that President Hoover wanted to build the dam around the Allspark with 40-yard thick cement walls to keep the signal from being able to be detected from the outside, or what they call outer space. So just that whole story, that's such a specific storyline.
Okay, so it's a movie about a black cube and Megatron, and then when you think about it, like the angels are sitting on black cubes, and also Metatron is like basically the leader of the angels. Metatron has a cube, and it's a cube that's based on cosmic geometry in order to create things. This is not coincidental that this stuff connects so easily.
They got to the Hoover.
Out of all places they could have hid the Allspark, they said the Hoover Dam. They got those fallen angel statues right outside the Hoover Dam, all those conspiracies around the Hoover Dam. Something's not adding up. What are they trying to hide from us? What exactly is under the Hoover Dam is the question.
Years, there's that much rain? First, no, is there waterfalls that are thousands of feet in the air? Where is that water coming from? How is it getting up that high? Is it going up the mountain? To be 24/7 for there to be water falling down 14,000 feet? You know how much water is 14,000 feet of water? It's a couple gallons.
While we were at the Creation Evidence Museum, a gentleman had showed us something he brought back from Peru. It's a fossil clam, but that's not the incredible thing. It's what's inside. Friends, that's soft tissue that has been fossilized, and that doesn't happen over millions of years. It has to be done rapidly, and a worldwide flood would explain that.
Climbed Mount Everest, 1953, they began to find something strange up near the top of Mount Everest. They began to find petrified clams in the closed position. Up in Peru, 2 miles above sea level recently, they found giant oysters 11.5 feet wide, weighing 600 pounds. Petrified oysters in the closed position. How do you get petrified closed clams on top of Mount Everest? I think there was a flood.
It's like everybody's waking up now. Everyone's starting to see what these waterfalls really are now. And it's beautiful, man. Add it to the list. It shouldn't take all this for people to realize the truth in this world. But hey, some people need to see the actual hole in his hand, and I get it. But just another master slash. You know, some people say it's tree rot is why the water comes out. Well, how do you explain waterfalls? Is that a mountain rot? You know, is the whole mountain rotten? Nah.
The first instances of weirdness would be I would come home from work and it felt like I was walking into almost a field of negative energy. Is basically the best way I could describe it. I would walk into my room completely normal, you know, tired after a 10-hour shift, but walk into my room completely normal instantly. The most anxious I've ever been in my entire life. Just pure anxiety, but also it felt like my skin was vibrating. It felt like the hair on the back of my neck was standing up. Like just, it was like I walked into just this field of bad. And it started to get more intense as it happened. First time it happened, I was just like, this is weird. All right, whatever. I'm going to go to the gym. And then I came back and it was normal and fine. I'm like, I guess something weird's happening to me, you know, didn't think about it too much. And then it got, you know, and I don't know, I assume this is a pretty family friendly show, so I'm going to refrain from using too crash of language, but there's a couple times where basically it made me more horny than I've ever been in my entire life. Like, and I'm not talking about like a gradual lead up or like you're going through puberty. I'm talking about like instantaneous, like, whoa, right? And that happened a couple times. And then after that, it started getting way more intense in terms of like, just this feeling of dread, this feeling of like, impending doom, this just extreme anxiety and dread, and just, it was horrible. And then I didn't hear a voice in my head. I don't know how to describe it, but it was basically like telling me, get out, leave now, get out, get out. And there was a couple times where I had to just leave the dorm in the rain and just go for a walk or something because it was so intense. I couldn't be in there. And I thought I was just going crazy. I thought maybe it was the stress. I thought it was, you know, because we were very stressed on a deployment, but it wasn't that bad, you know. One time I tried to stand up to it and say like, no, this is my dorm room. This is my, and it was like I got hit with a wall of just pure negative energy. It was like screaming. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not hearing it physically. I'm not hearing a voice in my head like telepathy, but it was just like the vibe, just get out now. And I literally sprinted to, we call it the exchange. It's like the gas station on base, the base exchange. I sprinted to it in the rain. I was sopping wet. The first instances of,
sounds like he might have been getting attacked by some type of spiritual succubus. You know, that's the first thing that comes to mind, because everything he was feeling, the succubus was attacking him in the spirit realm. But I also think it was pretty cool that he was able to identify what was going on in a way. Like he knew that something's up. That's all we have for today's video. If you made it this far, go ahead and drop that Super Tuesday in the comments below. When you drop Super Tuesday, that lets me know you made it all the way through the video, and I just want to say thank you. Your support means the world to me. This was mysterious videos, creepy TikToks, scary theories that might just keep you up all night. Till next time.